Hello and welcome back to another VOD review. It's been a while. I'm sorry. I missed you, chat. We're going in to watch all of the most recent qualifying matches. So we're going to look at the 4 teams that qualified, their most recent matches that got them to qualify for the Hawaii event and the playoffs. So we're going to start with the Dallas Fuel versus Gladiators because Twitch chat decided that's the one they wanted to watch first. So if you're upset about it, blame them and not me. But we will get through those. We'll also go back and later look at some of the other matches that were very important. I know a lot of you Houston fans are like, let's watch Houston and be upset together. We will do that at some point. And we'll also go back and watch some other important matches and important things that happened. So we got a whole week. Yeah, let's get going. Houston's not worth watching. I think we'll blaze through it. I'm not going to go too in depth. It's obviously a very quick match, so we're not going to go into too much depth. But I kind of want to like look at it from an outside perspective because, as I said, everyone was talking about Juby. I kind of want to look more under a microscope and see where really the fundamental issues lay. But let's talk about this match. So we're going into it. Obviously, a lot has changed since we most recently did reviews. Lucio Moira, this, it was called Neo Goats. I don't really like Neo Goats as a term. We just sort of coined it that way, and then it just sort of kept running. I like to call it Dupe Goats. I think ZP and Jaws were sort of advocating for Dupe Goats. I kind of like that a little bit more, but it's also just easier to call it Lucio Moira, I think. I'm just going to call this Lucio Moira comp for the most part. You'll understand. If we're playing Lucio Moira, we're playing a rush style. We all know that's how it's going to go. But I think, and this is why I'm actually very heavily favoring the West going into these playoffs, is I actually think this composition is the best on control. Almost every control map, I think this composition will have the advantage over other comps. I think it just plays too fast. You can mitigate that on other maps where there's high ground, there's long distance and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't work on control. You have to fight, you have to brawl. And we've seen a lot of teams who have tried to not play the Lucio Moira fail at it. So let's keep it going and talk about this one. So the Gladiators obviously have been very good so far throughout the entirety of the June Joust. I think they went 4-0. They look dominant, they look versatile. They don't look as good on the Lucio Moira as your Dallas Fuels, but they look pretty solid and they have shields in their wheelhouse. Dallas, on the other hand, are completely single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, only focusing on this Lucio Moira style. They pretty much only play this Lucio Moira rush, and they're one-tricking it to victory. I keep doubting it. I keep thinking that, eventually they're going to get caught out. They can't keep getting away with it. They might keep getting away with it, is the answer. They just seem to level up every time. I love the adaptations, and we're going to talk about that later from Sparkle, depending on the way that the other teams try and counter what a Fuel are trying to do. Sparkle is the main person who adjusts and finds a solution to the problem with the Doomfist, with the Genji, and obviously the Moira. So, the Echo. So let's keep watching this first fight. Bit of back and forth. The Gladiators get the advantage. Moth gets a couple of kills. My boy Moth doing work. It is very back and forth though. But I would say the most important character to have alive, and one of the most important, I think there's 2 of the most important characters to stay alive. I think it's the Reaper and the Moira. I think if you have the Reaper and the Moira alive, you still have a chance. But I think as soon as you lose one or both, your chances get drastically lower. I think Echo has the ability to close out fights, but I think Reaper is more consistent and self-sustainable. What about D.Va? D.Va is very useful to have, but the reason D.Va is important and gets so much done is because with this composition, I think it's impossible to focus the D.Va. The reason D.Vas are getting so much value is because everyone's just running past you. D.Vas are literally just doing whatever the fuck they want because no one wants to spend the time to kill a D.Va because it's almost impossible, right? The biggest executes that exist in the game is the Echo beams and stuff like that, right? And Don made a really good comment about this on some Twitch chat and ended up on Reddit, where he was talking about the reason Lucios die first a lot is because Lucios are really the only thing that you can kill. If you look at this whole composition, Moira has Fade, Winstons have jumps, especially once they start getting ultimates online. Reapers have Wraith Form, Echoes have copies, and also flight. D.Va just has a million armor and can fly every couple of seconds. So, like, the only person who doesn't really have an escape is the Lucio. And that is why the best Lucios that we see right now are getting high value, but also not getting isolated very well. So Birdring cleaning up, and that's the advantage they're gonna get right there. I think Doa was outclassed by Birdring in this match. Interesting. I wouldn't have said the same thing, so I'll keep an eye out for that. So Dal's walking in again. In true classic fashion, Gladiators have the Coalescence because they won the fight. Fielder doesn't have Coalescence, which is surprising because you think he should, so he probably died early. Generally, the person who pops Coalescence first has the advantage because you can generally close out the fight. But I think it was Johnny who actually recognized this. The Gladiators are playing the most Gladiators style possible, where they're trying to squeeze every bit of value out of all of their ultimates. So Gladiators could easily engage early here with their Moira ult and get that drop of the thing. I think they think Fielder has the Coalescence as well, but they're always trying to go second. They always want to use their ults second so that they have a higher advantage in the long run, right? So I think this would have been a prime example of a time that they probably could have Coalescence engaged. But instead, they wait for Dallas. Dallas obviously gets a ton of damage in, gets a ton of hit. Like, if they engage here, look at how much health that Fearless and Doa have. They could easily punish that with an advantage, especially seeing as Fielder just threw a damage orb, right? I think that's a damage orb. But he also drops the Coalescence. And here's the advantage of going first, right? Kevster dies. Obviously, Sparkle kind of isolates him in his own. But that wouldn't have happened if the Gladiators had gone first, right? So the slower you play, the less advantage that you have. And I think Dallas Fuel is the thesis for this of Dallas always goes first. Dallas will always push the agenda. They're always going to play the aggressive style, and that is why they feel so oppressive to play against and why they catch so many teams off guard. So we got D.Va bombs, we got Coalescence, everyone's getting ults. So this is where everyone frustrates. I know I'm pausing a lot, but I'm trying to get through a lot of like my thoughts before we get too deep into the match so we can start analyzing the individual thing. The reason a lot of people hate this meta is because when shit starts breaking down, exactly like right now, it is impossible to follow. And it really is. As someone who has played a lot of GOATs, as someone who's played a lot, the breakdown here, like look at what's happening here. We got a Lucio and a Primaling Winston. There's a Primaling Winston also over here with a beat. We got a Lucio versus D.Va 1v1 where both of them have the beat. We got a D.Va and a Reaper hanging out over here. A D.Va bomb just blew up down here. Sparkle's remeching as the Echo. It's just fucking chaos, right? And you can't understand what's going on at the drop of a hat. So that's generally why looking at ultimates and just looking at the kill feed is the easiest way to follow who is winning in these fights. So when we do watch these fights, I'm not really going to break down every individual thing that is happening on the map because we'll just be here for hours. I'm going to probably look to see what happens first and then go back and understand how it happened, right? So that's probably the way we're going to review these matches. So Fielder goes down first. It looks like Fielder gets himself pretty isolated over here, right? It's actually pretty interesting how everyone consolidated so well, considering how far away everyone else was from that. But yeah, Fielder gets himself isolated. I think he uses Fade to get away from the Primaling Muse, and then ends up getting isolated in the room. Great death bossing by Doha, though. Counter diving on the hard dive by the Gladiators. Yo, RLFC, thank you very much for the Prime Gaming sub. CEO of Suit, thank you for the Prime sub. Jippyo, thank you for the 3 months. And Redis Moon, thank you for the Prime sub as well. Thank you very much for all the subs, guys. The Q to win comp? Yeah. But I talked about this on the desk as well. The ults are not always used to put a nail in the coffin, right? You're not trying to win every time you throw a fight. It's a lot of map control, it's a lot of space control, and it's a lot of tempo control, right? You're usually using these ultimates to then further isolate a target. And I think that one was a prime example. Muse uses his primal, gets on top of Fielder. Fielder then has to use the Fade. As soon as that Fade is used, Fielder is the isolatable target. And that's what the Gladiators do. They recognize the isolation, they call it, they all dive on Fielder. But then Doha on the other situation goes, we've lost control, we've lost positioning. He uses his ultimate to get space. Even if he doesn't kill 2, they've controlled that space. The Gladiators have to split up, right? So that's why you'll see a lot of back and forths. And especially when bad teams play this composition, they don't get a lot of kills, but there's a lot of back and forth of space. So Harmon gets forced early, gets his Diva Mech killed. Kevs is just doing this. He's got his Diva Mech, so he drops the Diva Bomb. I don't really like this idea of dropping the Diva Bomb and the Death Blossom at the same time. Obviously, they kill Sparkle, which is great, but I think this is like, talking about space control, they're already going to be running from the Diva Bomb. If you use the Death Blossom, it makes them sort of, they're doing the same thing. They're also trying to like get them away from the same area. So it was fine, but I don't think ideal. Good disengage by the Dallas Fuel, recognizing that the Coalescence is up. The Gladiators disengage a little bit. They've lost a couple of players. They lost Sparkle, but they're probably going to re-engage with their Coalescence. Too late though. Fearless gets burnt way too fast. The Coalescence comes down from Fielder, but the Coalescence is, if we learn anything, I don't think Winstons are the most important characters in this meta and this matchup. I think with a Coalescence advantage, I think they're somewhat even. Space loses his mech for it. Another great Death Blossom by Doha. And the re-engage and the tempo, right? They were 5v6, but Fuel recognized they still have the advantage with the Coalescence. And that is what makes them great, right? They re-engage, they come in harder, they go in faster, and they partner the Death Blossom with the Coalescence and get a couple of kills. Great beat by Moth to sort of stabilize the Gladiators here. And it does stabilize them. The issue that they're going to run into, and if you remember what I said, one of the most important characters in my eyes to keep alive is the Reaper. I think the Reaper does, especially against the Winston and the Divas, the Reaper does such a good job of being self-sustainable, but also outputting a ton of damage. So even though that beat was very good by Moth, Doha just chunks him down. Bang, 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 bang. They don't have enough damage to kill the Reaper. Because they don't have their own Reaper, the Echo can't do enough consistent damage, and Dallas Fuel turn a fight that seems somewhat unturnable. Shiki, thank you for the 3-month resub. Do you think some teams just flip a switch and become too hard to take down by most teams? Dallas, I think, does this in the playoffs. I think it's just confidence. I think you need to play with that confidence, and it's generally understanding the meta. Once it clicks for you, once your team gets that synergy, gets that understanding, then you can run with that, and that's how you drastically improve, right? Dallas have once again found the meta that suits them the best. And I think Fearless said it himself that he doesn't actually think this Lucio Moira is the best meta. It's just the best meta for Dallas. That is what makes it really good for them. It is a great meta for them, right? Doha can play the Reaper, Sparkle on the Echo, Fearless on the Winston. It sort of synergizes with the way that they like to play the game. And the way that and it's also very synergy based. So I think it's just best situation for them. While Gladiators, I actually don't think this is the best comp for them. I think Birdering on the Reaper isn't ideal. Shu on the Moira isn't playing to a lot of their strengths. As much as Kevster on the Echo, Space on the Diva, Muse on the Winston is great, I think this comp requires a ton of synergy. Gladiators are good at that, right? But they're not great at that, in my opinion. I think they work really well when they get to play these Orisa comps, right? When we got to see Birdering on the Widow just taking these wild off angles, Kevster being solid, Shu being able to play that Anna or that Baptiste and play that aggressive style, Space being able to create a ton of space, play those off angles. It's sort of, that is when they looked great. Who did they dumpster playing that style? They dumpstered somebody over the weekend. Was it the Titans? It was somebody. They absolutely brutalized somebody. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. Maybe it was Paris. I think it was Paris. I don't think it was the Titans. Paris was 3-1. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's when Gladiators are at their best. When I think when they have individual pop-off ability, right? Alright, so we got a lot of ults again. So we got the Coalescence and the Copy coming again from the Fuel. Sparkle hits it. Look at how smart this remake is and people are getting better with this, right? Sparkle understands. So he goes, throws it up in the air. And they've gotten better at this, and I think Naga was the first person we really highlighted getting really good at this. Throwing the Diva Bomb, forcing them away because of your Diva Bomb, and then using the remake as a punish tool, right? And you can see he's doing it intentionally here because the first thing you're going to think about is people are going to try and run up this door. So Moth gets caught by that, the remake. I do want to talk briefly about this remake thing. I think the remaking damage is stupid. I think 100 damage or 150 damage is good. 250 damage is too much. It should not one-shot a player. And I think anyone who disagrees with that, I don't understand why you think it is good. I think it is a very cheap way to lose a team fight. I love it. It's entertaining, but I don't think it is good for the balance and competition of it all, right? So, like, there was one that was worse. I remember someone remeked and killed a Reaper, and it literally turned the whole fight because the Reaper like tried to walk out the doorway and stuff like that. If they're going to keep it at 250, I want the hitbox to be reduced drastically. Like, drastically. Right now, it is very forgiving. Like, it is a very big circle. If they want to keep it at 250, I want them to make it a very small size. 100 damage is pointless. Well, the thing is, you're not supposed to kill people with the remake. That is not the value of Diva. It's supposed to be like, as much as it's entertaining, it is too strong. Is the issue not just Echo? I think it's built up even worse by Echo. I agree with that. But then how do you fix that, right? Because the Echo has nothing to lose when they run in and remake, right? While a baby Diva, you don't want to die when you have the remake. So.
2, 1. Round 2. Capture.
So same comps again. This is just as I said, I think this is the best meta and composition for Control. So Dallas going first, as they always do. What happens to Doa here? Why does he die? He goes on the off angle, and I don't mind, but I feel like he overextends post Wraith. So he gets focused, does some damage. Wait, does he just not Wraith? Oh, that was just a mistake. Alright, I thought he Wraithed at some point. So he just doesn't Wraith. Big mistake by Doha. That should isolate them. And as I said, without the Reaper, I think it's almost impossible to win this fight. They don't have enough consistent damage coming out. And Gladiators will get the first fight. We're doing Shock Rain. Yeah, I think we'll do that one next because that's the one that people wanted to watch after this. So we'll probably break that one down next.
Engaged. Diva.
Cole vs. Cole. I actually really like this Diva Bomb from the Echo of Sparkle. I think and this goes back to the point that I was talking about, right? Isolating targets. Look at how much of a split up this forces the Gladiators to do, go 3 different directions. And that's the way you want to use it, right? Forces the Wraith by birdering. He ends up in a small room with them. Manages to live to tell the tale, and Harbin loses the mech for it. So good play by the Dallas, but they just don't get the value from it. And there's another Diva Bomb. Here's another issue that I think we can all agree with that exists for Echo is you should never be able to get 2 Diva Bombs, right? You just shouldn't be able to get 2 Diva Bombs when you are on an Echo in a single ultimate. I think that's a really bad mechanic. I don't know how you fix that. Limit it to 1 ult per Echo ultimate. Increase the amount of charge it takes to get the ultimate while in copy. It's something is fundamentally broken with that, like just being able to get 2 Diva Bombs. It's just, think about that, right? Like, and you understand why everyone is just copying Diva when you look at the value you can get. You change to Diva, you have like, how much Matrix do you have? Like 2 seconds of Matrix? 4 seconds of Matrix? Or something like that? I can't remember exactly how much it is. I think it's 2. Yeah, like 2 seconds of Matrix. You get rockets. You get fly. You have 600 health. You get your ultimate incredibly fast. You can throw the ultimate. You then go into a baby diva form where you can then use cool mech to potentially kill someone. You can then, once remeched, you have another 2 seconds of defense matrix. You have another set of rockets. You can fly again. You can then do enough damage to get another diva bomb. And then if you did it fast enough, you can get another remech. That is why it is so busted, and that is why Echo is so busted in this space right now, is because that is a stupid amount of value from one Echo copy, right? It's like, it's a little ridiculous, and I hope that gets addressed moving forward. Beat goes down. That Jexay gets pushed away on this beat. Like, we'll watch it from Jexay's perspective. So he's hanging out. He's actually hanging out with Hanbin here, and he wants to help them. And he knows he needed to, but he gets pushed away from the baby diva, and he actually misses Sparkle on that one as well. So that was great play by Muse. Kind of unfortunate for Jexay. The timing of that was quite bad. But great play by Muse. Great play by the Gladiators. They're doing a good job of like stabilizing in the middle of these fights. You're still streaming where you go over the IBM power rankings? Yeah, sure. I don't find the IBM power rankings crazy insightful, because I think the biggest issue that the rankings are having right now is the teams that are successful in terms of just winning, their players are there. So it's kind of like, I can't see the skill of each individual player when I'm looking at the rankings. I don't feel like I can see that, right? Like, if a player is not performing super well, but on a very good team, I can't see that in the rankings. Why did Kev go Moira? I wouldn't be surprised if that was a mistake. Or also, he just couldn't see the diva at the time, right? Cole v Cole. Crossing beams. Double Reaper ult. Nobody dies. Oh, never mind. Birdring dies. Space loses mech as well. Good play by Hanbin. He made sure... Some people would have made the mistake to jump out of their mech and died to the diva bomb, but he stays in it. Dallas will get the... That's a quick flip as well, so that's good play by the fuel. Who do you think is the best main support right now? Main support's such a hard one to look at. No, Lee J Gun is flavor of the week. Lee J Gun's not the best. Lee J Gun definitely does a bit of inting from time to time. He's incredible, but he definitely does some inting from time to time. Custa. Moth, no. I think Jexay's really consistent on Dallas. And I prioritize consistency on main support over the big moments. I'm not sure, that's a hard one. Jess the Clown, thank you very much for the fresh sub. Welcome to the fam. Kaiser with the 52-month tier 2 sub. Hot take, Zenyatta balls should bounce off walls. That is a hot take. That would be a nightmare. Jexay has some feed moments. I'd say Fielder is more consistent. Yeah, I can see that, but I also think it's been a very hard season to be main support. I don't think this season has been very kind to main supports, because the metas have just been, you're kind of fucked. Like, if you just stay alive, you're doing fine. I think Niche has been really good for the Chengdu Hunters, but I honestly haven't like broken down a ton of what Niche has done. I don't know.
Lifting off. Adjusting adaptive circuits engaged.
Well,
Diva.
that was a thing.
Nerf this. Nerf this.
Nerf this. So Gladiators have used a lot of ultimates and haven't really got a whole lot of value. That's beat Primal copy. Dallas does a great job of disengaging, right? That's impressive. And they only use their coalescence to sort of slow this down. They do have the Jexay beat. He does need to get I would like to see them use this soon. So the call goes out. There it is. There's the beat. Good coordination by the Dallas Fuel right there. That was just great play by the Fuel, right? Gladiators came in probably hard and a little early on their ultimates. And Dallas Fuel just disengaged, and they re-engage with their own ultimates. They come back with the beat. They come back with the... so they mirror the echo copies, right? But then as soon as Gladiators commit the beat and the primal, Dallas Fuel disengage, wait those out, hold those out, and then re-engage with their own beat, their own primal, and get the value of their ultimates. So big plays by the Dallas Fuel, and that's what makes them the best at this comp. Would Echo still copy the Diva without the remake damage? I think so. I think they would. Winston's not very valuable. Primal's not very valuable in this composition. It's very hard to get value out of Primal in these comps. Comparison to what we saw in Melee, right? Because everyone can generally run away from you. The person that you can isolate the best is Lucio with your Primal. And even then, you need pretty good Primal mechanics to isolate a Lucio at this level. So that is why Winston is generally not copied as much. Because you don't get as much value. It's harder to get that much value. I'd like to see Echo die if she dies as a copy. That would never be a thing because then you would never want to copy a 200 HP target, right? So much of what makes a good main support is comms and ult tracking. So team coordination and ult economy should be evaluated. In that vein, Jexay is great. I agree. A lot of what makes a good main support is comms and ult tracking and, you know, just working and functioning within your team, right? My problem with that is you can't say this team has good ult coordination and or like ultimate usage and coordination, therefore this main support must be very good, because that's not always true. That might not be the main support having that effect. I think it's impossible to really know how good a main support is unless you have an insider take on what they're doing, right? Especially for heroes like Mercy and Brig, because you don't generally see the value that they're getting. So, like, yeah, people who say like Moth has the best comms and ult tracking, it's like, where are you getting that information that the Moth has the best comms and the best ult tracking? Have you guys listened to Moth comms during an AL match? I haven't.
Wobble wobble, motherfucker.
No one knows what is happening in that situation. Shock said, right? Yeah, but we're making big assumptions. Like, as I said, I have a lot of respect for Moth. I'm pretty sure he's good at communicating. Everyone I've talked to has held Moth to that regard, but we're still making a ton of assumptions. And I'm not going to make an assumption someone is the best main support because of something someone else said about that player, right? So it just becomes that thing of like, I don't like to break it down that much. You know what? You know what the best, the highest, oh wow, that was really bad by Fielder. He just let Sparkle die. The highest praise that I can give to a main support is they seem solid. And they seem good, and they're on a good team, and people want to play with them. That's the best thing. And I think rating individual players in a game like Overwatch is also just very hard to do. And I think there are so many factors that go into that. Like Sparkle just gets burnt down here. There are so many factors that go into things like that that we're just making these wild assumptions. Thought Bap and Moira are main support? No. Bap has a little bit of main support, but for the most part, Bap and Moira are flex support heroes. Sinatra said he doesn't talk much, but just that when Moss says things, they all go with it. And that's what the main caller and the main support should do, right? That's how it should always... I think main tanks and main supports are generally the most communicative. And that's it. Like, DPS players aren't expected to communicate, and I trust players talking about their teammates and all that kind of stuff more over anything, right? So... But, so for that vein, right, we can make the assumption that Moth is a great main support. We all know that. But Jexay, I have no idea how good Jexay's communication is. I don't know what he offers for the team. I don't know any of that. I have no frame of reference for a lot of these Korean main supports because, I don't know. So it's hard to compare Moth to Jexay and that kind of stuff, right? 1,000 viewers, poggers, buggers! Yo, what's up, Johnny? Alright, so Gladiators get the advantage and Fuel just dropping all of their ultimates to try and hold this. They use Harm and Diva Bomb, Fearless Primal, Fearless Coalescence. Sparkle's obviously just throwing his own Diva Bombs. I love this isolation by us. I actually remember seeing this live. Look at this isolation and this recognition by Space. Dodges the Diva Bomb, comes in. And this is one of those situations of, this is why it's hard to play main support. Look at Space realize where Jexay is and he's just like, yo, fuck Jexay. Him and Birdring just communicate and Jexay has nowhere to go. Gets isolated by the boop of Space and just great coordination by the Gladiators. That's a pretty good disengage by Fearless. I think he needed to disengage here and hope someone else would touch. But unfortunately, obviously, they lose the fight for that. Remember back in the day when Custa and Fate bumped heads about who was the main shot caller? And here's the thing, right? Where did you get that assumption that me and Fate used to bump heads about who was the main shot caller? I'm not saying you're wrong, but how are you making these assumptions? I've never talked about it. I've never talked publicly about the communication structure of the Valiant and who does all those kind of things, and how it was playing with me and Fate. Reddit says everything, right? And it's like, it's fair. Like, as I said, main supports and main tanks are the main callers, and there's always going to be disagreements. And me and Fate definitely bumped heads from time to time. Like, when we were successful, it's generally when me and Fate agreed on how to play the game, right? Because we collaborate a lot and we have to make decisions together in the middle of a game. But I like, where does this assumption that we used to butt head come from?
Score.
Now you've talked about it, I heard it from you. That was the word at the time, but that becomes the thing, right? Is I think so many people make assumptions about what things are happening, and as much as, like, as I said, that's probably, like, when the team is breaking down, it doesn't look like you have any synergy. The main support and the main tank, who are both known for their communication, they're not doing it, but they're not flowing off of each other, which is fair. But that doesn't, I think a lot of people just take those rumors and then run with it as an assumption when, you know, the number of times I've seen shit written on, like, Reddit and, like, people post these things based on similar assumptions and they're just so wrong. It's like, you guys are assuming this, but you guys are just so wrong with what's going on here. And I think that's the problem of Reddit. Okay, so Dallas just like take too much damage coming in here. Was Kuki a big leader? I really liked Kuki. We're going on tangents again. I liked Kuki as a player. Like, I really liked Kuki as a player. I think he was a smart guy. His biggest issue was his main tank mechanics just weren't as good as Fate's, right? I think he was very smart in the way he thought about and talked about the game. But I think he struggled on main tank, that we were never really going to play Kuki on main tank over Fate. I also don't think he was a very good main support. So it's like, I think he had a great mind, and it doesn't surprise me at all that he's a great coach. Like, doesn't surprise me at all. He had a great coaching, and he did a bunch of coaching for the Valiant as well prior to moving into the Lucio, and I thought he was really smart the way he thought about the game. So it doesn't surprise me that he's a great coach. But yeah. Alright, so Dallas re-engage, they get the coalescence first, and that is generally why, though who gets the coalescence first, generally wins the game. They go early, they go fast, and even though I think they had a pretty big disadvantage, they did pretty well. I'm curious to know, like, let's go back here a bit. So, on the opening fight, right, Dallas takes a ton of damage. How intentional do you think this is? That they take a ton of damage and then disengage? That would be really hard to coordinate. But I feel like Dallas always gets the coal first, right? Look at the ult charge they get because of that big damage take and then disengage, right? And because they get that big damage, because they're playing around, it feels like Dallas doesn't play super aggressive until they start getting this coal advantage, right? I wonder if they talk about that of like, hey, we're not gonna overcommit until we get the coal. We're gonna chill, we're gonna play aggressive, try and get coal fast, and that's gonna be our primary forethought, and then re-engage with coal. I wonder if that's like a big way that people think about the game. Dallas always do this, yeah. Like, obviously, they want to get coal first, but I wonder if their first fight strategy is built around that of, we're going to play slow. And we're going to try and absorb as much damage without dying, and then Fielder's going to get coal first. We'll see. Because, obviously, we've seen people do that on 2CP, on these point captures, and that's not uncommon, right? Of, like, your Winston walks in and takes a couple of shots and runs away, right? That's not really what I'm talking about. It's way harder to do in a map like Control, and we haven't seen many teams do that on Control. Just because you generally, first fight is very hard to, you want to get the advantages early. But I wonder if that mentality has changed a bunch. How do you balance Cole? Increase the amount of time it charges to ult. Cole is a good ult. It charges too fast, and that's always been Moira's biggest issue in my opinion, is that Coalescence just charges so gosh darn fast. So this backfired huge on Rain vs Shock. Shock tried that, and then Pelican came in with the Echo because it was a longer fight that Cole wasn't enough to win the fight. And that's, as I said, you got to be really careful when you're giving up damage and you're giving up space. You need to make sure that you get big advantages when you do pull that trigger. Because if you don't get the follow through, as you said, DPS start getting ults. And then the team that doesn't charge that Cole, focused first, they will always get the Cole second. And it's not second by a lot, it's second by a very small amount of margin. So if Shu had gotten that Coalescence and Gladiators hadn't instantly died, Gladiators would have had a massive advantage in that fight.
Adaptive circuits.
What do you think about a Cole nerf that heals Moira less so that you could kill her easy while she's ulting? Maybe. I could see that potentially being a thing, but I don't like ults that, I would rather you, I think Cole is a good ult. I think you just get it too fast, and that's one of the biggest issues.
Diva. Adaptive circuits engaged. Nerf Diva. Nerf this.
I mean, if you heal 24k per 10 minutes, you should get Cole all the time. And that, I think that becomes the issue, right? Is that the reason Moiras are getting Cole so fast is because they're coordinating and they're using it as a 6-man effort, right? But like the amount of healing in these comps, the amount of healing and damage that everyone is doing is absurd. It's actually pretty fucking ridiculous, the numbers that everyone's putting out, just because they're pushing the hero to the limit. So how do you balance the character in a casual sense while also just like, I think one of the worst things that they did was reducing the orb from 8 to 6. I don't think that was a good decision at all. I don't know who was complaining about Moira about not having enough orbs. Like, I think if they were they needed to reduce the effectiveness of the orb if they're gonna reduce the cooldown. Was it 10 to 8? Sorry, is it 10 to 8 or that kind of stuff? Whatever it was. I thought it was 8 to 6. I don't know. They reduced it by 2 seconds, and that just seemed ridiculous to me. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, I think that's increased the amount of healing output because the orb does a ton of healing. 8 to 6 was hold. 8 to 6 was hold. That's what it was.
Adjusting angle of attack.
Do you know the Cole ult charge is more expensive than Trans and is the same cost as Rally? Yeah, but the reason Moira exists is because of the amount of healing throughput she can do, right? So you can't balance it in the same way that Zenyatta and Brig get their ultimates, because Brig has a ton of utility with the bash, with the stun, with the armor, and Zen provides Discord Orb, right? So they offer something else other than just throughput healing. While that is Moira's value, right? She's always going to do a ton of throughput healing. Wow, that was very fast. I love the tempo of that by the Gladiators. Just engaging with the beat Reaper ult. Very smart. And they just overrun the Fuel. That was a nice overwhelming play by the Gladiators. Fuel really wanted to slow down that fight with their Coalescence.
Changing position.
Time to raise my APM.
Beam activated. Boosting up.
God, this is so toxic. How much percentage do they get for that? %69%? Yeah, I think as soon as Fearless dies, essentially they've won the fight. So they're at 70%, and by the time that they lose it, they're at... Yeah, they gain 23% just through that stall. That's pretty ridiculous. Something definitely happened after this map because Dallas looked way more dominant after this map. I think we just went to maps that I think Lucio and Moira is a matchup that you're always going to have there's always going to be a lot of back and forth. The difference isn't that ridiculous. It's the 1% things, right? Gladiators are a good team at Lucio and Moira, but I think Dallas is better, right? But I think after this map, we moved very heavily away from the Lucio and Moira, and that's why Dallas becomes dominant. Is Gladiators tried to use these torp strategies, these shield strategies, and Dallas Fuel didn't want any of it, right? Beats, Diva Bombs, nerf this. Good TP by Birdring. Oh, that was actually pretty well played by Birdring. Not enough though. Oh, Kevs is getting a lot of value here on the Echo. So we got double Coals, double Echo copies, Diva Bomb by Space, and that forces everyone aggressive. The Doha Death Blossom didn't get as much value as you would really like. Great beat by Moth to stabilize the fight. Gets Doha killed because he doesn't have Wraith or Teleport because he used those to get back. Later beat by Jexay, Sparkle punishes Muse. The lack of damage from Doha is going to be a big problem though, and that's sort of what I highlighted here. Birdring dies as well, so Dallas sort of bring that advantage back, but at this point, Kevs to be fucking. They've lost. So now they only have Winston, Diva, Lucio left for the Dallas Fuel. Oh, that's a great kill by Jexay and Harmbin. I was going to say they don't have enough damage, but Doha's back in the fight. Doha getting back into this fight and getting that kill on the Moira by Jexay and Harmbin was a big play. But it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. It did force Muse's ult out, but Gladiators are going to hold here. Static Moira, yeah, this is just a visual bug that's existed in the replay for some reason. Okay, so look at this example. Here's another one from the Gladiators, right? They have an advantage with Cole. I don't know if they've tracked this or what's going on here, but I would actually really have liked to see them go aggressive with this Cole, right? Force the issue. They have the Cole, they have the advantage. If they play stagnant, they don't have enough ults. They only have the Coalescence, almost a Diva Bomb. If they give Dallas Fuel the opportunity to walk in here with a free fight, like look, Shu already has Cole, but it looks like they're trying to farm this Cole up. By playing slow, they've actually given Fielder the advantage to catch up on their Coalescence, and Dallas is probably going to go first again, right here. Gladiators are playing so passive and always trying to go second and be the responsive team that they're giving a lot of space to Dallas Fuel. And I think it's costing them a lot of... Dallas have the initiative in these fights. If Fielder uses the Coalescence first and then Shu uses it a second or two later, that's great. But I think what we've generally seen throughout these two mirror matchups of the Lucio Warriors clashing is generally the team that pops it first gets the first kill. So the Gladiators are kind of gambling that they'll have an advantage by popping it second. But I don't know why they're so convinced that this is good. Space, I don't know if I agree with the Space Diva Bomb either. I think Space was going to keep mech here. Was he about to lose mech? I don't think Space needs to use this here. I think he's full health. I think he could hold his position. He could probably have held this position for a little bit longer because there's no reason for him to throw this bomb. By throwing this bomb, I think the Fuel are going to be able to disengage their own way. Like, I don't think this Diva Bomb is ever really going to catch anyone because, you know, everyone's going to have their mobility abilities. Exactly like we see here. And now Harmbin has his bomb, so now Harmbin and Fearless can play hyper aggressive with this Diva. I also don't agree with this beat by Jexay, actually. Why does Jexay use this beat? Oh, Jexay's about to die. All right, Jexay's 1 health. Okay. I didn't realize Jexay was so low. And here we go, right? Space has to re-mech at a weird spot, and he actually loses his mech because he doesn't get as much space from that. Because Dallas Fuel, like, I feel like Gladiators are... Like, why does Space go early there? Like, they feel like they want to go second with their Coalescence, but then they sort of use their Diva Bomb first? And like you see here, the Fuel are using the Diva Bomb to mitigate the value of the beat, right? They're getting point control, they're getting value from this. So Harmon throws this one and gets a lot of space. I don't know how he kills Birdring with that. But you saw, it feels like Fuel are using their ults smarter right now.
Engaged. Diva. Adaptive circuits engaged.
Last fight. Space does an aggressive bomb, and instead of disengaging the Dallas tanks, just jump in. Yeah, well, the thing is, that Diva Bomb was always going to split people up, but I don't think it split them up the way they wanted it. Like, you really want to use the bomb in a place where you can isolate, right? But that fight was kind of hitting a net neutral, right? When Space threw the bomb. Like, they're not really going to be able to isolate or punish anyone, in my opinion, because they haven't forced any of the movement cooldowns. You really want to use a Diva Bomb when the fight's already breaking down. I don't think he needed to use it. Obviously, Space is a lot better Diva, and he could be right, and, like, they really needed that Diva Bomb, but I feel like there was no need for the Diva Bomb at that point, especially when they had already lost Birdring, right? They've lost Birdring. If anything, you want to use Space's mech and a full health mech to sort of slow this fight down, right? And then when he loses his mech, he throws the Diva Bomb, extends the fight, gives more time for Birdring to come back. So, I'm not sure. Do a Diva Bomb, uses back. And Dallas, I think Dallas are just playing this more tempered, and it feels like Gladiators are on the back foot, right? The Gladiators on the back foot, they are on the back foot, they have to keep touching the point. And it feels like they're having to force a lot of their ultimates, right? While Dallas, I feel like we're using their ults much better. Birdring, I think he has to go for that Death Blossom, but yeah, it's just Harmon has the Matrix, they're not going to be able to do anything with that. Mult's back on the Lucio, but yeah.
Victory.
Alright, first map. Holy shit. Sorry, that was a very long first map, but I think we hit on a lot of important points with these compositions with both of these teams, so.
Ready for battle.
Do Glads need a coaching change, or should they stick with Deepay? I think if I think there's a lot of public outcry that is putting Deepay, holding Deepay accountable, right? I think Gladiators are the best they've ever been. I think they look very good. They obviously had a terrible Melee, well, a terrible opening weekend. I don't know how much you can put all of this onto Deepay, but I also think Deepay has been, you know, the coach for, after this season, 4 seasons. So at some point, I think, I would be surprised if Gladiators don't have much success coming out of this season. And Deepay, like, it's not even like I want to see Deepay removed. Like, I think Deepay has done some good stuff with this team, but I would love to see a different head coach come in, even if Deepay steps down into a different role or something like that, right? But something needs to change, right? I think if they don't succeed. But I think a lot of people are just blindly blaming Deepay as well, which I don't think is fair. I think Gladiators, for the most part, make pretty good coaching decisions. I think that, like, I don't think anything about the way that Gladiators played this match was bad. I think they looked really good. I think they played the right comps. I think they played smart. I just think Dallas was better. And I think, you know, that the same can be said for the other 19 Overwatch League teams. Dallas has just been better than them for now. So it doesn't feel like there are any glaring issues with the coaching of really poor comp choices or really weird player swaps and stuff like that. I actually really like, after this map, that they put Mirror in. I thought that was a really cool change. I think it's like, what we're doing isn't fucking working. Let's put Mirror in, we'll put him on the Torb, throw a curveball at the Fuel. And it worked for a map, but it didn't get them over the line, right? So I actually kind of like it. I don't really have any problems with what we've seen so far. Why did both teams pick Hanamura? And this is actually important to talk about as well. So the other two CP maps in the pool are Temple of Anubis and Volskaya Industries, right? I think both of those maps are better for Lucio Mura than Hanamura is. I think the Ash Echo shields work better on Hanamura. I think Volskaya is kind of a toss-up. Like, you could say that maybe Volskaya is better. But I think if you have really good positioning, Volskaya can be used well with shields, but I think it's very easy to navigate around with Rush. So I actually think Hanamura is the best option. It's not a great option, but it's the best of the worst. And that is why I think you see teams sending fuel here, is because you can make shields work. And I think Atlanta proved that very well. Atlanta made this Hanamura pick look very good when they played it against the San Francisco Shock. Feel like Outlaws roll on Anubis? Yeah, but just because they've rolled historically on Anubis, we're in a completely different meta. Anubis is the worst map to play against Rush. Lucio Mura gets so much value on Anubis, and I think if they ended up going to Anubis, you can't play the shield comps. You just can't. They can. There's too many chokeways and too many flank routes that the Rush comp can close the distance onto your shields. So as much as teams might historically have been good on Anubis, it doesn't mean it's going to work now.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Didn't Dallas actually play Neo Goats on Volskaya? Are you talking about last match? Last patch? Like, you can't look at different patches and different metas and then be like, it worked here, right? Very different thing of like Tracer and Sombra and Reinhardt and Zen not being in the meta. It completely changes the way it works.
Do you like clowns?
I hate clowns. That is you, Jester. You know I hate clowns. Fuck clowns. Alright, so Dallas do a really good job of getting in. And this is something that I think Dallas does better than any other team. And actually how they're able to make this rush comps work is a lot of teams really struggle to move around the map playing this Lucio Mura, right? Because the issue that you have to deal with here is that you have an Echo and an Ashe free firing at you as you're trying to navigate around the map. But look at the synergy of that dive. Everyone goes in, everyone uses their abilities effectively, and everyone just fucking closes that distance.
Wobble wobble, motherfucker.
Jester the Clown, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs. Much love, man. Much love, much love. Let's get some Custa hearts in chat for the 5 gifted subs. Much love. So they get in onto the point, so great job by the fuel. Obviously, this is where the Gladiators start to have the advantage when they have this damage. As long as the Gladiators can effectively touch and aggro the point, and bounce back and forth on it, they have the advantage right here. They come back in with the Echo copy. I actually really like this. Look at Fuel's recognition of when the Gladiators go aggressive with whatever ultimate they have, the Nano, the Echo copy, we're going to dive the backline. Great recognition by the Dallas Fuel. They just go hard in the paint on Shu. They even route around it. And a lot of teams would have tried to stay on the point. A lot of teams would have been like, this is the advantage. We have the point. We can do this, but the Fuel recognize that it's pretty easy for them to get picked against this comp. They're gonna go, we're gonna use our advantage. We're gonna go really hard on the backline, and they kill both backliners. That's just textbook player. Oh god, Jex is dead. That's just textbook play by the Dallas Fuel, and that's what makes them the best team in the world. That's what makes them. That is how they always make these kind of like off-meta comps work in these situations, because they just do it better than anyone else. Alright, let's see how they do this, because here's a really hard point as well, right? Of the rush.
Wobble wobble, motherfucker.
Is the Gladiators are going to be able to have their Ashe and their Echo crossfire here as they try and walk onto the point. But Dallas Fuel, they do it again, right? They understand. Limps now, thank you very much for the first up. They do it again. They understand if they go through this bottom right, and this could be the most underutilized flank angle in like the history of Overwatch. This point, and obviously you lose control of the high ground, right? You're giving them the high ground. And here's where I think that a lot of people just make that mistake of the composition from the Gladiators actually doesn't get that much value from the high ground because the fuel can jump on them. So Birdring can't really play up here. Shu can't really play too like aggressive like up here to sort of like negate it. So they're gonna change the distance and they're gonna go in from the bottom right. And this is just so smart because you can tell the Gladiators don't really know how to play this, right? They punish Custa because Custa goes it doesn't have a pocket anymore and he's trying to create that off angle. But Birdring gets the punish, and Birdring needs to hit these shots, right? It's the same thing that you put on like Kai for the Atlanta Reign. He needs to kill somebody on the entrance. If he doesn't get a kill here on this entrance, they're in a really big problem. And this blade by Sparkle is also very smart. I remember seeing this happen. So he blades, but it's very hard to punish an Ana or Brig. He actually just uses the blade to kill Muse. And he's just forcing the point, right? He's just being like, yeah, well, I have a blade now. And the Gladiators have to play so defensive in anticipation of the blade. Just plays hella passive, doesn't really get too much, really isolates one, maybe two targets, gets the value, and they use the rest of their ults to get space. Birdring's Bob ends up off the point, and this might have been one of the worst things that happened. I want to see where this Bob, how this Bob ends up there. Oh, he needed to, oh, actually, no, that was just a bad throw. I don't like it would have got booped off for nowhere where he threw it at that point, but it's just textbook by the Dallas Fuel. That is legitimately them playing into their win conditions of understanding. We just need to get point control. We just need to get onto the point and then force the Gladiators to come to us and then not die to the Echo Ash before we cap the point. And that's what makes the Dallas Fuel so good.
Switching sides.
Yeah, thank you very much, General Tough. I appreciate that.
Initiating match.
Dallas very much feel like the Season 2 Titans where the team synergy is much better than anyone else's. Yeah, I think that's completely fair. So I should, okay, don't play Genji. That is, no. Don't take that, should not be the takeaway from this. Do not play Genji. They make it work, but that is not what I said, okay? Can you explain the nuance between main support and flex support? Main support is generally the people who play the Lucio, the Mercies, the Briggs, and the flex support is essentially the character that heals more in the Baptiste, the Ana, the Moira, but then Zen. There's no like easy way I can just give you like a couple of lines to describe the nuance. It's just those are the categories that are being provided, and it makes sense if you look at the history of Overwatch and the way that the metas have evolved and all that kind of stuff, but it's quite complicated. You just have to sort of understand the differences of how I'm trying to tell it. And it only really affects the highest level, right? In gold, main support and flex support isn't really a big difference. So this is when we see Gladiators coming up with their composition, right? And I actually kind of like this comp by the Gladiators. I think this is a really smart composition to counter the Lucio and Moira, right? Everything is defensible, right? They have the BAP with the lamp, they have the Brig to stun and also provide a ton of health once the dive comes in. The Torb and the Reaper are very self-survivable, but also do a ton of damage up close. The Torb turret can, have a little bit of an off angle, then you have great tanks. The biggest issue that I think people are going to run into with this composition is it's hard to push your agenda. Because you have to force the Dallas Fuel to engage, right? So it's all about walking up far enough that you're not exposed, but also walking far enough up that it's going to force the Dallas Fuel to do something. The Gladiators don't have a ton of pick potential, and I think that is the real big issue for this composition is that they don't have a good way to be like, now you have to engage onto us. I think Echo provides that a little, and maybe I would like the Echo over the Torb a little bit more. But, like, we saw the Houston Outlaws try and run the McCree instead of the Torb. And that's sort of their way to push the agenda of, we're going to have, McCree's going to be shooting at you if you don't take this, if you don't go. They don't have that as much with the Torb, but it sort of still exists. I don't know which team, I think this composition from the Gladiators wins on certain maps, and we'll see it on Hollywood later. But I think this composition has a ton of viability on certain maps where you can play that defensive bunker style, but I don't think it's valuable everywhere. I think they're going to really struggle, especially on Hanamura attack, of getting that engaged without just getting punished. Also, Sparkle makes a beautiful read on the win condition of the team and actually switches to the Doomfist. So you see them force the dive, great play, space isolate Sparkle there. That's literally how the comp is played, right? So Gladiators walk up, doing a ton of damage. They're trying to force Dallas to go, right? And Muse is playing super aggressive, and you can see how far back Shu and Moth are playing, and they're going to do this intentional because they're waiting for the engage. Space recognizes the isolation because he's probably not going to be able to punish any of the tanks. Muse is just being annoying in the front line. He wants them to shoot at him, and that's a great play by Muse, right? The entire backline of the Gladiators disengage. They get some punish onto the DPS, and that forces all of a sudden an all-in from the Dallas Fuel that doesn't pay off. And that is literally, you cannot show a better way of how the Gladiators comp is supposed to function against the Lucio Moira, right? Dallas Fuel have no poke other than the Echo. They don't have any, like, win conditions, so they have to engage at some point. The Gladiators force that win condition, Space finds an isolation, and there it is, right? Why is Doomfist good against this comp? I'm gonna explain it when the Doomfist comes in, right? So the reason the Doomfist works, Gladiators have no punish in this composition. They don't have stupidly high damage. They have very high sustainability, right? But they don't have like really high burst damage on this composition, in my opinion, unless the Reaper like or the Dorb like shoots him in the face. What this gives is they actually, Sparkle's gonna get free rotations, and we're probably gonna watch it from Sparkle's pod to just sort of give you a clearer idea of this, especially on a point like this on Hanamura where Doom gets high effectiveness. They're not going to be able to punish Sparkle's Doomfist effectively enough. So he's always gonna get a free punch. He's always gonna get a free E uppercut. And when you're playing against one of the best Doomfists in the world, he's gonna make it look seamless. And there's a lot of people who are very punishable by the punch, right? You can punch the Reaper, the Torb, the Baptiste, the Brig, the Diva. All of these are great punch targets and targets that you can shoot, especially when you value in the uppercut left clicks that you can get. First VOD, yes. So it goes in, E uppercut, done, right? This automatically straight up forces. So obviously Sparkle before was playing the, I think he was playing the Reaper? Think about it. When Reaper goes in, he shoots his shotguns, but as soon as he races away, he's useless, right? Where Torb, and as a Gladiators, right? If you're the Gladiators, you're not afraid of a Reaper, right? Reaper can't really kill anyone for the Gladiators, while Doomfist has a high amount of things. Look how much shields. Sparkle has 350 health from just going in and using his abilities, right? He was playing Echo, but Doa Switch, yeah, but they were still playing Echo Reaper before, right? Once again, ease in, presses the uppercut, hits the punch. He can do that time and time again. Even the Gladiators tried to peel for that, and they have to focus the Doomfist now, right? Which then gives Fearless, Doha, and all that way more space and way more effectiveness. So the Reaper is very strong. Sorry, the Doomfist is very strong because he's going to be able to do this over and over and over again, and we're going to see it time and time again. And I think this is where... I think this is where you need to recognize this, and I think Gladiators should switch to the Echo. I think the solution here is to go to the Echo, because now if you look at it, the Fuel don't have actually a great answer to Kevster playing in an off angle with this Echo, right? Doha, you want to split the attention of the Dallas Fuel when you're doing this, right? And I think if you just have Kevster switch over to the Echo, Moth can keep packing the Echo. They're going to have an off angle, and that's once again going to force the Fuel to engage. It also gives you a very good ultimate to counter this, and it's going to force Sparkle to switch off of the Doomfist, right? And I think they could easily keep going back and forth on these to sort of give people the advantage. But I would have loved to have seen this Echo adaptation from Kevster here in this situation, because I think the Echo would get pretty high value. Because they don't need the Torb. I don't think the Torb is going to help them against the Doomfist. And no so. June tournament made me feel sorry for the Vancouver Titans. They probably had the roughest schedule. Yeah, I'm not going to say Vancouver put up a phenomenal effort in some of the matches, but I actually think they played pretty well this weekend. I actually think they sort of, as much as they didn't cap any points, I think they looked competitive, but they had a brutal schedule. a very brutal schedule, so you got to give that to them. And here we go once again, right? And once Doofus has ult again as well, right? It's even worse. Just look at how much value he's just going to consistently keep getting. He's going to die here. But, like, every time the Gladiators try and walk through a choke here, they're going to walk into this punish. And that is the problem that I have with the Gladiators. I don't think this comp is going to work when the Dallas Fuel, as soon as they see the Gladiators walk up here, that's an easy engage, and I don't think the Gladiators are ever going to get through unscathed. So as much as it works really well on the first point, because their backline can walk up through this choke and be like somewhat defensible and have the choke and then have Muse walk up to here and it's very counter-divey, I don't know if it works on the second point. And I think they're hoping on a mistake, a failed engage from the Dallas Fuel. I think Shu to Moira would also be pretty good. I actually think we saw a lot of teams as time went on move away from the Baptiste and move towards the Moira. I think the Moira would be really good here. I think the Coalescence gives them a ton of sustain. I don't think the window is ever going to be super valuable. I don't think you're ever going to get enough. By the time you get the space to use a window, I think you've already probably won the fight, or it's not going to get value. So I would actually like to see the Moira Brig here. You could potentially go Bap Moira. But that just feels weird. You know what I mean? It just doesn't feel good. So I don't know if that would actually work, but like theoretically, it could be good.
Wobble, wobble, motherfucker.
Beyond, thank you very much for fresh sub. Space does a Diva Bomb engage. This is a pretty classic one. Forces a lot of positioning. This is actually a really cool play, actually. I really like this Diva Bomb. That forces the positioning of the Dallas Fuel here, right? Forces Harmbin and Jexay to walk forward and they get the punish onto the mech. Oh, the windows. If that window was like 45-degree angles, that'd be a really good window. But that sort of splits the Dallas Fuel, right? And that's what you need to do if you're the Gladiators. And like now they're getting all this space, right? So this is actually a really good play. By the Gladiators, that sort of explains onto my point of Gladiators need to force a failed dive by the Fuel, and that was it, right? That was it. Like the Diva Bomb forced the positioning, forced the dive by the Dallas Fuel, and they're gonna get the space through. Doesn't get a ton of value out of that echo copy. And here's the issue for the Fuel. Once the Gladiators get this positioning, it's like, how do you dive this? Good. They hold until the very last second, which was very smart play by them. Sparkle goes in, gets a good amount of value, but not enough. The Doa echoes Bastion switch is actually quite smart. And he actually almost does a lot of work here. The beat goes down. Like, this almost works. It's very almost works. But the ults from the Glads come out at the right times, and they're just gonna get over the edge. Emergency Bastion from bronze through to hour, yeah.
Score 2-2. Initiating match.
Alright.
Ready for battle. Defend objective A.
Birdring fucks? Oh yeah. Birdring's a very good player. I think Birdring has impressed me. Obviously, we were very worried when he first signed with the Gladiators. He had a really rough season on the London Spitfire, but I think he's back. Like, I think he is everything you'd want to play. Any team would be lucky to have Birdring. So let's see the same. We're watching it again, round 2. Let's see how the Dallas Fuel adjust what they're doing here, right? So you can actually see the Dallas Fuel's change of strategy here, right? They actually don't want to engage until they get the Coalescence. So they're actually just trying to sustain. And that's why you see the Gladiators trying to force this issue a little bit, and they're actually punishing space a lot better. So there's a change up of strategy there from the Dallas Fuel, right? They understand that, hey, we can't go before we have the advantage. They also know that the Gladiators don't want to overcommit, so they wait for the Coalescence, and they get the advantage from there. They also punish space for playing that aggressive Diva style that ended up getting on the punish onto Sparkle the last round, so. Do you agree that Kev is good, but not as good as most other DPS? Like, Glad's roster has been popping off, but I feel like Kev and Moth don't do much. Really? I disagree with that. I actually think the team's been really solid. I don't think Moth is supposed to pop off. I think Moth always does his job. Well, I think Kev's has been really solid. I think he's still struggling on ping issues. I think his Mei struggled, but everything else I think he's been very decent on. I don't think... See, here's the thing, is I don't think any team on the... any player on the Gladiators has struggled, like, throughout the entirety of everything, right? I think Shu and Kev's had a bad Mei melee, but I think they've been really good. I think Muse has had his ups and downs, but I think he's been solid. I don't think you can say any player on the Gladiators has been bad. I think they just haven't been able to cross that barrier of consistently beating the best teams and making it into these qualifiers. And that was the failure, right? That's the hump that we were hoping they were going to get over to qualify when they qualified for Hawaii. Gladiators have been really good. I think all their players have been very, very good. I think Kevster didn't pop off enough in this match. I will give you that. But I think a bunch of them made mistakes, right? So, I don't think you can hold any one person accountable. And I think they've all had their pop off moments. I think they've all had their struggles thus far through the season. So, yeah, I just don't think they've been able to string it together. Is the moral of the story?
60 seconds remaining.
Every time Glads get close to going far, they have to face against the strongest fuck team like Dallas now. Yeah, but it's just the way it is, right? You want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And that's something that Gladiators have, not only this season, as a franchise, has never been able to overcome. They've always been very good, but at the final moments, they've never been able to be the best team. And that's where most players and teams struggle. And that's what makes Fuel the best, right? It's what makes Shanghai Dragons the best. That's what makes San Francisco Shock the best. They have been the best because when it matters, they pop off. And I think the Gladiators haven't shown that yet. They haven't been able to do that consistently. So... Kevster belongs on hitscan. He's not a hitscan player. You can't even say that. Kevster is a great player because he has hitscan in his wheelhouse, but Kevster fundamentally is a flex DPS player. Birdring is the hitscan on the player in this team. Kevster will never be playing the hitscan unless we end up in a double hitscan meta. So here we go. The Dallas go early, actually. They go with the Orisa copy. I don't know if that was intentional. But yeah, they use their ult so well to stem the damage from the Gladiators. I think that might have been an overall from Doha there. I don't think they needed that, especially since he gets punished, but it doesn't matter. Gladiators are going to have to force a point touch. He absolutely is a hitscan player. Okay. Let me explain this, okay? Kevster can play hitscan. He is a great player. He is one of the few flex DPS players who can play hitscan very well, yes. But he is not a hitscan player. That is not his role that he is signed to the Gladiators for. He is signed as a flex DPS player. Phenomenal that he has hitscan in his wheelhouse. There are some players that you think about that they do have that in their wheelhouse. Your Lips, your Prophets, all that, your Fletters. Sorry, Lip is a hitscan player. Sorry, your Fletters, your Prophets, all those kind of things. That's great to have, but that does not fundamentally mean that they are a hitscan player, okay? That is the distinction that you need to make. Kevster is not the hitscan player of the Los Angeles Gladiators. Birdring is. Birdring will never be benched for Kevster on hitscan unless Birdring starts struggling, I would say. Decay, yeah. EQO is a great hitscan. EQO played a little bit of McCree in his return to Philly, and it was good, right? EQO is another great player who has hitscan, right? And that's valuable because there's a lot of flex DPS players who don't have hitscan in their wheelhouse, i.e. Sparkle. Sparkle is a flex DPS player that doesn't have hitscan in his wheelhouse, and that does limit them, but he's so fucking good at flex DPS, it doesn't matter, right? So... And like, as I said, like Kevster would easily be on this team even if he couldn't play hitscan, right? Because he's so good at flex DPS. So, and that's the advantages that some players bring, right? And that's how you get into these situations.
Ready for battle.
What do you mean Soldier is a hitscan? Stop that.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Legs does not count as a hit scan hero or role. Leave is a good one as well, yeah. What is Striker? Striker is a hit scan player. But he very heavily specializes into Tracer. And Sombra, to a degree.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Alright, so Fuel have to get over the line here. I think they see what the Gladiators are playing. And I think he's just like, he sees them playing Lucio Moira, and I think he just switches to Doomfist, right? I think if Pine is just average, Fuel reaches new heights because they're not limited to specific comps. IMO. It'll be interesting to see how Pine comes into this team. Like, I understand what you mean. Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, Dallas is only so good because they play these niche comps. No, they're just so good because they have good coordination. I think if they had a hit scan, that would give them a lot of versatility, and I think the team would be better off for it. But they're gonna need a hit scan that can keep up with them, right? And can function under the same guys, right? Is Edison the same as Striker? Yes.
Lifting off.
Imagine if it was Leave and Profit. Well, I think he would, yeah. No, that'd be good. I think Shy Leave is really the one that everyone wants. I think Shy Leave would be so good. Oh my god, can you imagine Shy Leave? It just... Shy Leave. Just does something to me. Oh god, Diva Bombs. Nerf this! So many Diva Bombs. Oh yeah, did you guys see this as well? We highlighted this on the post show, but look at this. So Shu fades. Fearless is like, okay, he faded. Where'd he go? He's just like looking around. He's like, wait, where did he go? And then he shoots him. Shu literally just doesn't move. And we'll watch it from Shu's perspective. I don't know why he shot at him again. I think he potentially could have got away with it if he didn't shoot him. Probably not. But yeah. He just tries to like bait him by like making him think. Because I think a lot of main tanks would have just like insta-jumped away in the anticipation. Or at least as soon as they didn't see him, just jumped away. But yeah. Fearless. It's not getting past Fearless. Because it works. It does work. From time to time. But yeah, not against Fearless.
Ready for battle.
Do you think Reckon Pine will be available to play from Korea? I don't think they're not going to put Pine in for the playoffs. Feel they're going to go down playing this Lucio Moira ship. It's either going to win or it's going to sink. But I think that's the way you do it, right? And that's personally how I believe, right? Like, I don't think they should use Pine until he's 100% up to speed and until he's 100% ready to play because they don't need him, right? Until they need him, I don't think they should force him. Alright, so now we need to talk about this, right? Because we talked about this earlier I really love this adaptation by the Gladiators, right? Putting Mira into this lineup. I was really concerned when they put Mira in. I'm like, why are they putting Mira in over Kevster? They will lose some of their flexibility. Kevster has that thing. Moral of the story is Mira's Torb kind of pounds. That's really the honesty of it. And I think they recognize it's like, hey, we don't need the flexibility. We don't need to play Lucio Moira. We're going to put in Skewed. We're going to play in Mira because we're going to play a counter dive comp. We're going to go down playing something different because we're not going to win the Mira. We're not going to beat Fuel playing what they're playing. So let's try and do something different. And I love this because it is not what the Houston Outlaws did. The Houston Outlaws sort of just like... The ship started sinking and they decided to just like try and ram the Dallas Fuel head on. And that's not the way to do it. If you're sinking, you need to come up with a different solution. The Gladiators do that. It gives them a map. They could have easily, if some things went a little different on Junkertown, they could have gone onto map 5 and they opened the door to win. So I love what the Gladiators did. I think it was great coaching. I think it was great team adaptation. And I think it was great individual play by Mira, right? Do you think this map is repeatable? I think the Gladiators comp has a massive advantage over the Dallas Fuel comp in this setup. I think if you are taking away the team names and the teams playing it, I think the Gladiators have a high... Gladiators would beat most teams playing Lucio and Moira playing this comp. Season 1, Dragons versus current LA Valiant. Who would win? Current LA Valiant. Molan Run and Crystal would just single-handedly dumpster Season 1 Shanghai Dragons. Remember, the game, people have gotten way better since Season 1 at the game. I think this year's LA Valiant would do very well in 2018 Overwatch. The game is, everyone's just gotten so much better at the game. It's very hard to compare teams year versus year. Alright, so let's look at this from the Taur's perspective. Recognizing the Reaper dive is going to happen. Really good counter dive by the Gladiators. You can see the way that the Taur is playing, right? And all they're doing is they're trying to give space, right? It's the way he does it, right? Birdering off angles, right? They're just trying to give space with Birdering, and Birdering's the one who needs to punish this incredibly heavily. So let's look at this. And look at how much pressure the Taur exerts by just existing in this room, right? It's like comparing current pro sports teams to 50 sports teams. Yeah, exactly, right? What would happen if you full push Birdering? Well, the thing is they needed to find Birdering, right? And Birdering late push, right? Late flank, right? There's obviously a win condition for the Fuel if they can isolate Birdering, especially if Birdering's going to go for something crazy like that. But yeah. Westbrook, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Thank you for the 2 months. Oh yeah, the Find Doa challenge. Yeah, this is where Doa had really good positioning. I don't really like that he went for Mirror here. I think this was the wrong target, especially seeing as the rest of his team dove in here. And I think this is one of the few big mistakes that I think Dallas Fuel made. If they had all rushed into this room, I think they would have been in a pretty good spot. But because they split up so heavily, it creates this like very weird disconnect. So they hard dive in this room. They, Jexay gets Muse. But here's the thing, right? So Dallas Fuel, they try and hard commit to this. They try and hard dive. Gladiators do a good job, and they double down, right? The Fuel double down with this Diva Bomb with the Primal. They do a great job of keeping skewed up for a really long time, right? And a lot of credit needs to go to Shu for this. Like, he's the fact that Shu lived through all this is insane. But this is even more insane. Shu does a great job disengaging onto the Mega. Gets the Mega Pack. And he's chilling, right? He's punishing Fearless. I love this jump here, right? Because he jumps to get away, close distance. And he knows as soon as he lands, though, Fearless is going to go for a short hop. So he jumps again, avoids the landing damage of the Winston, gets out of the range, and hits the shots. 1 HP. 1 HP. Literally, every single movement in that mattered by Shu. Goes on to live with 1 HP.
What's you or me, brother? Someone has to keep you alive.
Space also lives with 1 HP. And that's how close Fuel were to taking this this fight. And that's why I say the little things matter, right? The little bit of disjointed dive. If Doha had instantly followed up with the rest of his team, they could have easily just cleaned that up very fast. But unfortunately, with that disconnect, Birdering also lives with 1 HP, and Fuel don't get that push. They also don't get a tick. So 60% next window, yeah. Baptiste, baby. Fukake, thank you very much for the fresh prime sub. So hard beat engage. They have to turn on Muse because he drops the beat. And this was a pretty bad dive, I think, by Dallas Fuel with the beat, because they try and kill Muse. And if they don't get this punish here, and Sparkle turns into the Orisa as well, right? So need to hope for really good value here. Space's Diva Bomb does a great job of slowing this down. It actually gets the Orisa out of that copy. So everything for Dallas that could have gone wrong went wrong. But you can't take credit away from the Gladiators. They're just playing it so well, right? They're forcing Dallas to play perfectly and execute perfect dives and isolate the right targets. But unfortunately, Dallas just haven't been able to find those targets. Was Orisa copy intentional? Let me have a look. We'll say, I would say no. The answer is yes, though. He does go into the Orisa intentionally. Ivy, thank you very much for a prime sub as well. But yeah, loses the mech. If he got that bongo down, that could have been a very different fight. But unfortunately, does not get that bongo down. Should have shielded the door. I assume he didn't have a shield up. Yeah. He wanted to copy the supercharger. Sparkle. When I grow up, I want to be a supercharger. So I actually don't like the Doom switch here. For everything that I like about the Doom switch on Hanamura, right? I don't really love it on this point because I think it's going to be really hard for Sparkle to get value out of this Doomfist. As much as there is potential for him to get a really good pick and get in really deep, I think against this comp, he's going to really struggle to get space, especially with the ultimates that the Gladiators have. They're just going to drop Splooge everywhere. They're going to drop a Bob. He does a good job of actually isolating Shu. Shu actually gets caught out of position, which is very hard to do as a Doom. But yeah, look at this. Bongo, Bob, Splooge in the world. There's nothing they can do. Birdery's Bob just absolutely murders everyone. Now it's going to be really hard for Phil. The good thing for the Phil is that they didn't commit many ults, right? Fearless has Primal, Hanbin has Diva Bomb, and this actually gives them a window to get into this fight. So if they can get into this fight clean, they're in a good spot. I like Mira's position here. If I'm Shu, he needs to be hiding. I don't like Shu's positioning here at all. I would have loved to have seen him get on this high ground or end up somewhere. I also wouldn't have I don't like that he showed himself. I think it gives them a window, but they actually try and kill Space and Muse on the point, which I think was their big issue, right? Mira gets Fielder, which is a great kill. Like, they get Birdering and Shu eventually. Like, Sparkle actually gets crazy value in this fight, which is just a testament to how good Sparkle is at that Doomfist. But you'll love to see it for the Gladiators. I think this is... And here's the thing that, like, is kind of unfortunate for the Gladiators. I would have loved to have seen Gladiators versus Atlanta. I don't know who would win between Gladiators and Atlanta. I think they're very similar teams in what they're thriving at, right? I think they both are very good at the same things. But I think Gladiators just got the unlucky seeding. They ended up having to go against the Fuel and beat the Fuel. I think they have a lot of fight in them, and I think this series could have been closer with a couple of changes to the way things were, like to the way some of the maps went. I think it was closer than people give credit for. Like, I think people look at this loss from the Gladiators as a failure, right? They're like, oh, Gladiators is trash, right? Like, they always lose. They always suck at the final hours. I don't think Gladiators did suck. I just think they were in the warpath of the Dallas Fuel. And I think in this meta, they are the second, they're the third, maybe second over Atlanta team in the June Joust. They just unfortunately didn't qualify for Hawaii. And I think if they did qualify for Hawaii, they would be the second or third best team in Hawaii. Thank you very much, right? Money. So they're the second or third best team in the June Joust. And that's not a failure. That's an improvement from where they were in the May Melee. That's great. They're taking the right steps. Obviously, it's disappointing to see them fall short and more. And no one's more disappointed than the Gladiators. If you saw them play, you saw their faces when they lost that Junkertown, because as I said, a couple of things go different on Junkertown. They win that map. You could see how fucking pissed they were. They want it. The Gladiators are hungry, and I don't think this is the last of the Gladiators you're going to see. It's the same with Houston Outlaws. Washington looked really strong too. I don't agree with that. I think they looked solid in the Lucio Moira. Like, who did Washington beat? Washington Justice? I don't think I completely agree with that Washington Justice. They look improved with Decay on the lineup, right? They beat Shock, right? 3-2. They beat Shock 3-2. They look improved, but I also think that was the perfect meta for them as well. This meta, if they had caught onto it early and they'd give me thing, it was better looks for Washington than we've seen from them so far throughout this. It just feels like their coaching decisions, the way they're looking at metas just still feels off, and they haven't given me that confidence that they're going to be a different team heading into the Summer Showdown. So they have so much talent on there. Obviously, when they did find the meta, when Decay was popping off, when he was in the right role, Washington Justice looked good. But unfortunately, Until I see that consistently, I'm not gonna be super hype on them. Also, seeing as the Shock got rolled by Atlanta, the question is, Washington beat Shock, so they were in the top 5 or 6, but how good are they really? Shock maybe weren't as good in this meta as we thought they were going to be. I think Shock struggled on the Lucio Moro comps when it really came to it. Shock beat Dallas though. Shock beat Dallas, yes, in week 1. The game has changed so much in 3 weeks. You cannot say that the fuel that we're looking at right now is the same one that we saw in week 1. Week 2, whatever. The meta has completely shifted. I'm pretty sure Dallas weren't even playing Lucio Moira back then, right? They were playing this Ana. Weren't they playing a lot of the Ana Brig, Ana Mercy still? If I remember correctly. The game has changed so much in 2 weeks. So what happened 2 weeks ago is no longer relevant. It was the same meta? Oh, okay. It still doesn't change my point. The game has changed so much in the last 2 weeks of like the way it's played that I'm not gonna... I don't think you can't look way back a couple of weeks ago and then be like, well, this person beat this. The reason so, historically, yes, that would have worked. And this is what makes it so hard to analyze is historically, yes, because we had long-standing metas. But the game is changing so fast from week to week that you can't just be like, this team was good 2 weeks ago, so therefore I'm putting them on the same pedestal, right? The game changes so quick that you need to be able to adapt, and that's the best teams are the ones that do adapt and like find the meta and just stick with what is good for them, right? So Gladiators get the cap.
Victory.
Also remember how much Dallas improved. Yeah, Dallas almost didn't qualify for the May Melee playoffs, and they went on to win. So, you can't, with the way hero pools is changing the game and the way how heavily the meta is shifting based on that, and how short these tournament cycles are, you need recency bias is more important. Recency bias, I think, is the best tell of how good a team is, right? And you need to keep that in mind. Next cycle we have hero pools, no, but not having hero pools creates the same effect as hero pools, right? Because all of a sudden, and this is the way hero pools are working, is it will shift up the meta every time we have a new tournament. From going no hero pools to hero pools to no hero pools to hero pools to no hero pools, that is going to shift it every time. So every 4-week cycle, 5-week cycle is going to be that much more important.
How much does it hurt when you lose a league game, tournament game?
How much does it hurt when you lose a league game / tournament game? A lot. That's just it changes based on every situation that you're in, but you'll never lose a game and be fine with it. And if you ever lose a game and you're fine with it, then you're not going to be in the league for much longer. If you're the best team in the world, if you're the worst team in the world, losing just sucks. You literally put 100%, when you're in the Overwatch League, you put 100% of everything that you have in your life into competing. And that is why every loss just compounds and hurts. And you think about, right? Regardless of the situation you're in. And that's why a lot of people were pissed at me when I said that stuff about Vancouver Titans of it doesn't feel like they're putting their best foot forwards and these guys need to prove that they deserve to be in the league and that all that kind of stuff. It was harsh, and the reason a lot of people are frustrated at that, and I think I overstepped it a little bit, and I wanted to more point that towards the team rather than the players, is these players are so good and they put so much time into everything to be here. And I'm not saying that they're not trying, I'm saying that it doesn't feel like their best foot forward is going in, because of course they're trying. They play the game fucking at least 8 hours every day. They're putting everything that they have into, they're putting their whole livelihood into this. And that is why every win and all loss matters, right? They were not set up to succeed from the get-go, and it shows. And that's sort of what I was hitting on. I think I was frustrated. I'm still frustrated by we have teams like the Los Angeles Valiants, and I think the Vancouver Titans can get grouped in here where it doesn't feel like the teams or the organizations are trying to win. It feels like they're putting the bare minimum in and then just being, and then existing. And then we have these situations that are putting players in situations where they're not able to succeed and they're going to fail because they don't have as much budget. They don't have as much tools for success in terms of management, structure, all that kind of stuff around them. And that's frustrating because I know how hard it is for players being in a team. I've been on, I didn't not have the tools, but I've been on the Dallas Fuel when our team went 0-6. When I've been on the Fuel when we just like hard shut the bed, right? So everything always matters, right? And I've been in a situation where it feels like you're in a hole and you can't get out, and that's frustrating. Paris improvement was nice to see, and I think that Paris is a prime example for your Paris Eternals, for your London Spitfires, for your Vancouver Titans. They're all in the same boat, right? And they all have a lot to prove, so hopefully we can see that from the other teams as well.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
A Titan, Spitfire, and Valiant out of contention for the grand final? Yeah. I don't know exactly how many people qualify for the grand final, for like the final seedings, but yeah, I think so. What do you think of this map pick? I didn't expect it. I like the map pick. I think this is a pretty good one for them. A part of me wants to say that they should have gone to Rialto. I think Rialto, we've seen a lot of teams have a lot of success against the rush comps, or like teams have been forced to play the shield comps on Rialto, but I'm not 100% sold on that, right? I think Dallas Fuel potentially could have played the Lucio Moura and still overrun the Gladiators. I think they would have found solutions to the problem. So I don't think Dorado was it. I think Dorado you can still get run over. I think you can still struggle on Dorado at certain points. I think Junkertown, I think they were confident in it, and I go with that. I agree with the decision. Whatever they think is best, I believe that. Dallas, oh yeah, Dallas picked this map. Fuck, yeah, I forgot. Shit, yeah, well, actually, maybe that's why, right? Because I don't think there's a great option anywhere. Because as I said, Rialto and Dorado can be conducive for shield comps. I don't think there really is a very good rush map now that I think about it. Are they the three Paris? Are these the three escort maps? Yeah, like, I honestly think it would probably come down to personal preference. So Dallas must think this is the easiest one to rush on. Which makes a little bit of sense, right? Like, for the same reasons that I was like, maybe Rialto, maybe Dorado. Because Dorado, I think, rush on second point. I think rush could work on any point except for second point Dorado. I think you could potentially just force the cart, but that might be hard. And then Rialto, there's a lot of high grounds and chokes and distances that you have to cross, which would make it really hard to play the Lucio Moura. So maybe this is just the one that doesn't have that. I think if you don't get full held here, I think the rush comp is not good on every point except for this first point. I think this first point is probably the worst one to rush on. Birdering Pov? Alright.
5, 4,
We'll see if he pops.
2, 1. Attackers incoming. Escort.
Birdering gets filled up. Wow, it's a nice shot. This is the most important shot to hit as well, right? Oh, wow. Birdering's been so good this year. He's been so good this year. Joust is surely planning more for a second and third point rush. They're going to play rush anyway, so... And here's why, for people wondering why I'm like, rush is so bad on first point, for this exact reason, right? They have no way to punish Birdering where they are. So they want to stop the cart in this room, which is a pretty classic thing. But if they ever lose control of the cart, they're in trouble. They're kind of hoping that, like, that Birdering doesn't hit shots, and obviously Doha has to go punish him. So he gets the punish, but as I said, the comp is just very hard for Fuel to win here. They're playing for more of a second point, I would say. They're just trying to slow down the cart, play for second or third point. I'm just gonna ban him. Guys, hey man, I understand you have your point, but you're riling people up.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Just chill. Wait, I'm gonna unban you. Just chill. You're riling people up. I understand if that's what you think, but I don't want people to be toxic towards players. I'll always stand with the players. If you think FD God, I talked about this earlier in the stream. If you think FD God was the sole problem on the San Francisco Shock, then you're gold, right? There's a lot more issues than just FD God, and a lot of FD God's mistakes were built off the fact that San Francisco Shock wasn't performing well as a team. And that, if you need to be able to see that. And if you can't understand that and you just want to come in and spew a little bit of hate about players, I don't want that, because I think that's really negative, and I don't want that in my stream. So I unbanned you, but it's just take it as a warning. If I see it again, I'll just ban you.
Only place for honesty. Junkertown is on the scrappy. Consider yourself warned.
Routing tower to forward barrier.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about this. All right, so look at this setup. I actually don't like this setup by the Gladiators. I don't think they're coordinated enough to help each other, right? So what's gonna happen is these guys are gonna have to disengage as soon as this starts. So Birdring goes over to the Ash as well to just give more consistent damage, but I feel like they're relying on Mirror to get picks or something like that, because their players are so disconnected now, right? Birdering's in a different spot. They're all split up. They get the isolation on skewed. Yeah, I just think they were a little too disconnected. I wouldn't have minded if all of them were up here, or if they were like some were here and some were here. But just this distance is just too far to, like, they can't help each other, right? So Fearless just gets a crazy primal and isolates everybody.
Time to raise my APM.
All right, so this is where it gets hard for the Gladiators, right? Because look at this situation, right? This is very much like the second point Hanamura, right? Where all of a sudden the Dallas Fuel get a free engage, right? And this is where I think Dallas is gambling, I would say, on this pick, on them hoping to be able to hold on second points. I wouldn't be surprised if they hold on the second point all the time in scrims and stuff, because the Gladiators are going to have to walk forward into like a trap, right? Oh my God, how does Sparkle die? How does he die? Does Sparkle, like, does Mirror dink him? Because this is so important here. How does Sparkle die? I'm so confused. How does he die to so much damage? Who is shooting him? So he takes a little bit of turret damage, and he takes a body shot from... So there's a body shot. Takes another body shot. Oh, he's getting shot at by Muse at the same time. Muse is shooting him from the side. Wow, that's kind of unfortunate. That kind of fucks this dive up so hard. They really need that damage. Good counterbomb by Space and the Goo. Dallas has to invest a lot of ultimates for this now. But yeah, look at this position, all this positioning that Fuel's lost. Shoe's windows have been weird, but I guess it's hard to get value out of window. Alright, so we got a rally party in this room. Without the damage from the Doomfist, I think they're gonna really struggle Especially with Doha not on the Reaper. Sparkle's back, kills Shu. Oh, that was a close fight. Pretty well played. Pretty well played by the Gladiators. They just didn't get enough value out of a couple of their ults. I also think they overcommitted by running into this room. I think if they had just held positioning, I think they would have been in a better spot. Custa, do you think one of the reasons Dallas is so dominant is because teams can't really prepare for them? Like, their playstyle is so fast, if you have to tell a team they won't be coordinated. Yeah, and that's always been a thing in Overwatch, right? I think that another one of those examples is like the Shanghai Dragons, right? In 2019, when they won in Stage 3. You can't prepare as a team of how to play against the Shanghai Dragons. And that's, Dallas is the same way. As much as people play this Lucio Moira, they don't play it on every single map. And people don't play it the same way. So here's another perfect dive by the Dallas Fuel right here. And that's the value, right? Every time the Gladiators is trying to come through this choke, they're gonna get punished. Thoughts on the McCree pick by Birdring? I don't like it. I think it makes him very susceptible to the dive. I'd rather see him on the Reaper like he is now. I talked about how Doom gets value in the Hanamura, so it's the exact same reasons that I talked about on Hanamura, so if you want to check that out, you gotta go back. I'm not gonna break it all down again. Alright, so here's another engage. You try and walk through the choke. Sparkle gets a ton of value again. Just as you see, like, for all the reasons that you can just see right here, right? Birdring gets and Shu get a lot of kills though, which is super important. Because the spawns are closer, but Sparkle's just... As soon as they try and walk through these chokes, they're just getting punched in the face. Wow, great play by Mira and... That's great play by Mira and Birdring. That literally kept them in that round.
Wobble wobble, motherfucker.
Sedge, thank you very much for the fresh sub. Welcome to the fam. Did Dallas do the window dive yet? Yeah, they did it just before. So here we go. Gladiators setting up, and the Dallas Fuel can just jump in, but like, look, when the Gladiators can set up such a really defensible dive in this back room for their backline, you can see how they're at much a higher advantage, right? Muse's bongo gets blown up, isolated. This beat is going to be a problem though. I don't know what's happening. There's a tiny Overwatch. Yeah. And Fuel used every single ultimate for that, right? They used the copy, they used the Diva Bomb, they used the beat, they used the Coalescence. But the Gladiators are just too sustainable through that with the rally and everything that they have, and they just live to tell the tale. The only way I think Fuel really winning that is if they got value out of a Diva Bomb, or Sparkle got a ton of value out of his Doomfist and his ultimate. But unfortunately, they didn't get either of those, so Gladiators weathered the storm. Mira's building Morton Core. Yeah, Mira's doing a great job. And so is the backline of the Gladiators as well. And we actually talked about this, the Moira Brig. I actually really like this Moira, especially if Sparkle goes Doomfist. I think this Moira is way better. I actually think Moira Brig is a lot more consistent than the Baptiste, because the Baptiste, as much as the Lamp is good, I think the Fuel will just kill the Lamp fast enough. I think the Moira gets more value, and Coalescence is better against the composition that the Fuel want to play. So I actually think you'll see a lot of teams move more towards this Moira Brig, and I think even Atlanta played Moira Brig in their match as well against the Rush at certain times. So I actually really like it. So Dallas engaging with their Winston, and you can see that they just can't punish the way that the Gladiators want to play. With the Coalescence from Shu, they engage with the Winston ult, but just have to instantly disengage back off. Once again, Gladiators are doing a really good job of finding defensible spots. I don't like them going into this room. I would have actually seen them prefer being over here, but I guess maybe they're too far away. But yeah, they're kind of gambling that Sparkle doesn't get too much value here. Coalescence is going to be a lot of sustain. Mira fucks up here. I think Mira leaves the room. I think the first mistake here by the Gladiators, this room is fine, but Mira walking out of this room right here is a big mistake. I think he needs to stay in this room. and weather the storm. Once he gets caught out here with the on the cart, he just gets beamed down that coalescence, and as soon as they lose a little bit of traction, a little bit of space, Sparkle's just gonna go to send them to Frowny Town. Houston played Moira Brig. No, okay. Houston played Moira Brig with instead of playing Lucio. They were playing. If I'm correct about this, they were playing the Winston Diva Reaper Doom, right? Moira Brig, Winston Diva, Reaper Echo, sorry, is not good with Moira Brig. Sorry, yeah, I meant Echo. Moira Brig is good if you're playing an incredibly defensive bunker style, which is what the Gladiators are playing. Do not play it with a rush. You need the Lucio, you need the speed. I don't know why GB switched over to off the Lucio onto the Brig. I can't give you too much of a reason on that one. Actually, let's watch this because the Dallas feel actually hard engaged here, right? They overextend into this room. Birdwing gets a very good Death Blossom, dies for it with the Doom. So Sparkle kind of recovers this, but then you know you got Muse and Shu in this room. But Hanbin has something else to say. Hanbin gets that remake kill, and this can't be understated how important this remake kill is on a Muse. Because if he doesn't kill Muse here, Hanbin all of a sudden doesn't get as much value, and then goes on to just hard die. And this Dallas re-engage because of that is actually so unfortunate. So the Gladiators kind of getting a little unlucky, but also big plays by Hanbin. All right, Molten Core from the thing. And here's where the issue becomes. I think Space gets punished. I don't know where Space gets punished, actually. When does Space get punished? Oh, yeah, Space gets punished by the Echo pretty poorly here. Gets himself a little isolated. Like, they're doing a good job here. Like, they just need to play together. I don't know why they're all backing out of this room. I think if they use this room as like a sanctuary, but they're getting a little split here with Shu and Skewed. And unfortunately, Muse and Space just going down, so. Fearless is doing a great job of using his primals to isolate people, right? Why do all the Echoes throw the bombs high up when they could throw them at their backline? Generally because they throw them up in the middle of a fight because it makes it so it's hard to hide from. If you throw it across the ground, it's very easy to hide from it. And also if you throw it at the backline can just move forward and isolate, right? You want to throw it in the middle of the fight where it's going to split the team instead of throwing it at the backline where the backline can just hide and then the front line overruns you. There's a lot of back and forth and there's no one perfect solution. Every situation is different, but yeah. Do you think Dallas is stronger in the mirror or when the enemy comp is running a different type of composition? I think Dallas Fuel is very good in the mirror. I think trying to gamble that you can beat Fuel in the mirror is a gamble. I don't think there are many teams that could beat Fuel in the mirror. Like maybe the Shock. But even then, they didn't look that good against Atlanta. And especially as we go to Hawaii, I don't know who can beat Fuel in the mirror as well. Maybe Atlanta can beat them in the mirror, but...
1. Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
Yo, what's up, OAGL? How you doing? Alright, what are we going?
Defense matrix activated. Routing power to
Apex Sigarissa versus Neogoats? Yeah. Well, it's not even that. The difference for this Hawaii match is going to be because in Shanghai and NYXL, they don't actually play double shield all the time. They don't always play this hard bunker. They do play a bit of bunker with like the Mercy Echoes and stuff like that with an Orisa. They've definitely leaned towards that, but they actually play a lot of Lucio Bap, which is interesting. I don't know if I like the Lucio Bap. I feel like the Lucio Bap is going to fall short against this duplicated GOATS style of playing the game, but I could be wrong. But my first impressions is that Lucio Bap isn't going to hold up against the style that is played in the West. How does Scoot get so isolated here?
Time to raise my APM.
Oh, he gets slapped. And then he gets booped by the Diva. That was kind of unlucky. What about Brig Bap? Brig Bap's not bad, but I think, remember, with Control is very different. Brig Bap has played by a little bit by the West. I think I like Moira Bap a little bit, Brig, if you're going to play against this rush style. But Control is a very different game type. And I think you need a Lucio. You need that speed. You need that mobility in Control. So I think if we are going to see that the styles match up, it's going to be Lucio Bap versus Lucio Moira. Atlanta pretending they didn't know shit about Rush and then dunking on shotgun controller. As I said, it'd be interesting talking to Gator, like behind closed doors, if he was just fucking with us. And he's just trying to throw people off the guard. They're like, oh yeah, we don't know how to play Lucio Moira. We haven't put any time into Lucio Moira. We don't know how to play the Rush. Cap. Like, unless maybe they are just magically very good at the comp, but I don't see a world in which Atlanta didn't prepare a lot of Lucio Moira heading into the match this weekend, because they didn't play last weekend. We didn't see them. They didn't play this weekend. There's no way I think that they just completely didn't practice that comp, so. Stop the cap. Gator was playing 5D chess, yeah, so hey, fuck it, I respect it, dude. Do it, man. If you can throw people off the stand, if you think people are gonna watch that shit, don't put all your cards. And I think Danny does a good job, and I think people give him more than they should. Of like, Danny loves to push, right? Danny loves to just keep pushing, just keep asking more questions. And it's like, so what happens here? And there's actually Danny actually asked a really interesting question to Fearless leading into the interview. That Fearless responded with, but he said, I won't say that on broadcast. And I'm not going to say it on here out of respect to Fearless and that kind of stuff. But there was some interesting conversations between Danny and Fearless leading into it. And Fearless is, I guess, not saying everything. Oh, big plays by Space. Gets both backliners, gets the remake kill. Let's see if he gets away with it. Well, the teams have to know because they scrim, but they don't scrim all the teams, remember. And especially the East and the West don't scrim against each other. Gets the Mercy with that one. Yo, out of nowhere! Yo, that was actually kind of sick by Space.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
What a tease. Hey, just fucking with you guys a little bit.
Cease your resistance.
That bomb was so good, right? And here's a prime example of why you're like, oh, why doesn't he throw it at the backline? This is one of those prime examples of throwing it up is so good, right? Because it just forces the entire positioning of the Gladiators, right? It pushes them in to the rest of the Dallas field, right? Pushes them into Doa, pushes them into Sparkle. And the bomb is just so good in that situation and just does such a good job of opening up that fight. They do go on to loser. I very much thought Dallas was going to win that Fiend fight. So they just don't have enough damage to close out the fight.
I'm gonna have to shoot you down.
The sustain of this composition from the Gladiators is just so insane. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's why the Dallas Fuel are actually playing the Ana from Fielder, right? They're doing it because it feels like they need to play the Mercy Ana because they need to play more damage. They understand. I think they realize that it's too hard to close this much distance with the Lucio Moira, right? So they actually go over to the Mercy Ana because they need more sustainability. They're going back to the old meta where they have a lot more poke and they have a lot more damage. I wonder in a world if it would have been better for Doha to switch over to a hit scan, but I guess Doha doesn't also play hit scan, right? In a perfect world, if Doha could switch to the like Ashe or something, I think that would be so good for them. I think this is a big mistake by Fearless. But I also think this was a mistake by the Gladiators. I think they might have used too many ults there, right? They used Bongo, High Noon, Diva Bomb, Torbolt. They used 4 ults before Dallas even step up, right? Like, this is really poor by, like, the only thing that Fuel use is their Valk, and Gladiators pop instantly 4 ults. And this is probably what's going to come back to bite them in the ass, right? Of they just use too many, and obviously they win the fight. They obviously get an isolation. That's great, but it didn't cost Fuel anything, and Fuel are going to come back with a lot of ults soon, and now all they have is their double defensives.
60 seconds remaining.
What else do you think they should have used? I think the High Noon is very good. I think as soon as the Fuel use the Valk, I think you have to wait. I think you use the High Noon, and as soon as they dive in, you use the Bongo. I think those are the 2 you use. Goes back to what I was talking about with Space. Like, why did Space use this Diva Bomb, right? We talked about this earlier on the thing. Like, there is no reason for Space to force this Diva Bomb. Like, this, I don't think Diva Bomb should be used as a win condition, especially on an engagement. In this meta, I think it should be used to play super aggressive, play aggressive, and then use as an insurance card. Space's Diva Bomb, definitely not necessary. And then I think you either use one of the Torbolt or the Bongo. I don't think you use both. Unless Fuel start overcommitting, like using more ults of their own, I don't think you use that many ults. The Diva Bomb, definitely not. Yeah. Because the thing is, so they're going to have into this next fight, they're going to have the Rally and they're going to have the Coalescence, right? Which is going to give them a ton of sustainability, but they're not going to have anything to win the fight. And that's probably going to cost them, right? What you're going to see here is the Gladiators are probably going to live through this fight for a very long time, but they're not going to be able to punish from anyone from the Dallas field. Oh my god, Birdering. Oh, Doa, that was a bad Death Blossom. So they're going to get a ton of value out of this Rally and the Coalescence. They need to keep Birdering alive.
Diva.
Right, so here's what, as I said, right? They even get best case scenario if they punish Doha. And they have the sustainability, but they can't kill everybody. And then Fuel are getting all their ults up. They're splitting the rest of the team. Imagine if, let's go back here, right?
Diva.
Imagine in this situation, if Space could play hyper aggressive and then he threw a Diva Bomb here, right? Imagine if he could throw a Diva Bomb in the air, like right here, and the Diva Bomb was around here. This would have forced a lot of the Dallas field positioning and given Gladiators way more time to isolate and punish targets. But because they don't have that, Birdering gets juggled away, Muse gets pushed out of position, they get split up. Even here, even if he had if he still had the Diva Bomb here, it could have had more value, so. Bit of a mistake by the Gladiators, I think.
10 seconds remaining. The payload has reached our objective.
And we talked about this, right? We talked about this at the start of the map. Fuel, all they need to do is get through this first point. If they can hold the first, if they can, cap the first point on their attack comp, that is all they needed to do. The second point is going to be way easier for them to cap, to get control of, because they're going to be able to get this rush, right? The Gladiators are the ones who are going to have to bunch up on this defense, and Fuel are just going to be able to overrun them. So Gladiators actually feel like I actually don't know if I agree with this once again. So here's the thing. Gladiators are probably going to win this team fight, but it's going to cost them the one ult that they have, right? And they're not going to charge a whole lot of ults out of this. I'm pretty sure the Dallas Fuel are just going to disengage from this. Oh, and they get caught by the Diva Bomb of Harmbin. Like, we talk about the Gladiators having a very good defensible composition, right? With the Brig, the Moira, the Torb. It's awesome, right? They got the Orisa. They have the high ground. They have the positioning. Dallas weren't exuding any threats at this point. I don't know why they felt the need to force themselves into this small room, because you're asking for something like this to go wrong, especially against the Doomfist. Because the Fuel have the spawn advantages, right? Like, look at how close their spawns are. They get the kill on Fielder, but Fielder's back before the Gladiators can even consolidate, and they're just going to bleed out over time. A couple of minor mistakes, and you know what it feels like? It feels like Gladiators are getting nervous. They're getting anxious. they feel like they need to do things, right? It doesn't feel like they're playing their confident selves, cool, calm, collected when they were playing like that we saw from them earlier in the weekend. It feels like they are panicked by the situation of their back is against the wall and it's getting to them. Do you agree with the Ana pick here? I think they're just doing it because they keep having Nano. I think he would switch to Moira as soon as he can. He's gonna switch to Moira as soon as he can, but I think he keeps getting Nano every time he dies and needs to reset. Okay, I kind of like what's going on here right now for the Gladiators. Yeah, good isolation on the Ana. The beat's a little late from Jexay. Mira gets isolated. How does Mira get isolated? Oh, so Mira's one of the people that he dove. Mira gets very aggressive.
60 seconds.
Nerf this.
Is Space using his Diva Bombs too early? Like, why? It just doesn't feel like he's getting... I guess he forces Doom ult, copy, and the Winston to jump away. But he still is healthy. Like, what? Maybe he could have forced the Primal if he just kept shooting at them.
Diva.
Like, he's throwing it, and what's happening is as he throws it up, his backline is getting isolated. Or, like, the fuel are just engaging harder onto everyone else. Ah, double Diva Bomb by Doa. Yeah, I think... I don't know if I'm right, but Space's Diva Bombs could definitely be used better. From what it looks like. I think if he slows them down... I think when he wants to use the Diva Bomb, maybe he should go more aggressive. As he gets low, play aggressive onto the backline, force them to peel, force them to commit resources into him, and then he can Diva Bomb as like an insurance card, maybe. But because what it feels like every time he's throwing the Diva Bomb, they're either disengaging or they're engaging and isolating someone else while he's out of mech, because there's not the threat of him.
Going free.
So Molten Core, well, like, I guess we talk about this, right? But here's Hanbin doing the exact same thing.
Going free.
But maybe this is to just slow down the Gladiators. Engage. Does this work better because of the way that the Gladiators are playing? Like, he sees Muse step up. Like, he throws it up in a way that's going to force Muse forward and Space forward, right? Like, you see when he uses it, it forces this massive overextension. How does Shu die to that? Space is not an hour level. No, Space is very, very good. Space is definitely an hour level off tank. I think he's one of the best in the business. Doesn't mean he can't do things. It doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. Oh, Shu shifted too early. That was a big mistake. Because that one got high value from Hanbin. So maybe it's the timing or the positioning that Space is doing it. Or maybe it just isn't as effective against the... Doing it early isn't as effective against the Dallas comp. Who's gonna die to Spark if he doesn't shift? Yeah, I guess you're right. Rock in a hard place, maybe.
Time to raise my APM.
Alright, so Gladiators have no ults. These are just Dallas in that for that right though. But I think Dallas is probably just gonna beat engage, right? They're just gonna nano engage. I think they just nano engage. Are they gonna nano the Doom? Oh, that was bad timing with the nano. But they have beat as well. Like, they can just play so aggressive with the beat. Yeah, then they just beat. Sparkle's just, they can't punish Sparkle in the backline. And that goes back to the idea of what I was saying of, without a hit scan, without high damage, it's very hard to punish this Doomfist, right? And Dallas go on to win the match. As I said earlier, I don't think you can look down on the Gladiators too much for this loss. I think they played really well. I really do, especially after going back and watching the match more. They were pretty close to taking control. their adaptation and playing towards the strength of their style on Hollywood, and just I think some ultimate usage really cost them on this map. I think some positional and some ult usages, some mistakes really punished the Gladiators on Junkertown. They could have easily taken that map. So a lot closer than I think. And they went into, and they got 2 points on Hanamura, right? Like, you can't, there's a lot of people getting very frustrated at the Gladiators fans and all that kind of stuff, but I think Gladiators played very well against a very strong Dallas Fuel team. I think it played well, and I don't think you should be upset as a fan. I don't think you can look down too badly on this loss. So I think they potentially could have been the second seed if they were on the other side of the bracket. I don't know, Atlanta looked very good, but would Gladiators have won the mirror matchup of the Shields? We don't know, and I guess we never will. But yeah. I hope you guys found that interesting. I know it was a very long one. I feel like every time we do Dallas ones, they are very long, but I hope I answered a lot of questions. Very in-depth. Hope you guys found it interesting. Thank you very much for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you guys next time.